Ms. Boebert for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Mueller, I'm very pleased that you traveled to Washington, D.C. to be here with us and testify, and I thank you so much for your expertise on this issue as well as many others in the western United States, particularly in western Colorado. Your testimony warns that we should be valuing our headwaters as much as our wildland-urban interface. Can you share with the committee what's at stake should the federal government continue to ignore managing the forests in our headwaters?
Certainly, Congresswoman, 80% of our state's residents depend on water that originates in our national forests. And the difference between timely intervention and proper management techniques in our forests in Colorado and throughout the West, and effective mitigation of these issues will mean the difference between having a reliable source of drinking water for all of our residents. It will mean being able to provide food from local sources and regional sources to the tables of our residents in the western United States and throughout the country from our ranches and farms. It's truly a crisis that is one of those slow-moving crises headed towards us all. You can see it coming, and I would say that we're failing to do what we need to do.
Thank you. And Mr. Mueller, as you discuss in your testimony, wildfires have lasting impacts, not just on our forests, but for our ability to utilize our forests as our largest reservoirs. In Colorado, this is extremely important as 80% of our residents rely on these forests, the majority of which are federally owned, for their municipal supplies and as a critical source of water. What are the impacts to the Colorado River, which is already in a 23-year drought, if the federal government continues to fail to manage our forests?
Well, I think it's really important to emphasize that our forest is our single largest reservoir in the state of Colorado, and in fact, in the entire Colorado River Basin. A poorly managed forest, a forest that suffers from beetle kill and overgrowth due to literally a century of fire suppression, is a forest which cannot continue to produce water in a reliable fashion. The natural infrastructure within that forest is incredibly important to all 40 million people who depend upon the Colorado River for drinking water and all 5 million acres of irrigation.
Now, we heard colleagues from the other side of the aisle criticizing our desire for infrastructure for more water storage projects. I think when the federal government allocates infrastructure dollars, it should go towards infrastructure. Last year, we passed an infrastructure bill, $1.2 trillion, less than 9% of it actually went towards anything infrastructure related. And I didn't hear any of my colleagues on the other side saying, how are we going to pay for this? Who is this coming from? Where is this money going to come from to be able to afford this? So I am in favor of more water storage projects and the federal government being responsible. I don't think that any of us are climate change deniers. I fully agree that the climate is changing. It happens 4 times every year. Colorado sometimes 4 times in one day. So we just want to be good stewards of our land. We want to manage, we want to conserve, and certainly conserve our water. So now, can you discuss the importance of developing small-scale storage in Colorado?
Certainly. I think the small-scale storage, it's an interesting situation. I understand other parts of our country in the West are looking for larger storage vessels. In our headwaters in Colorado, we have streams that have been flowing year-round that, due to the rising temperatures and hotter, drier summers, reduced snowpack, we have seen those rivers going dry, right? Mm-hmm. Very important commercial, recreational fisheries, very important supplies for agriculture and for our cities. Small-scale storage allows us to modify the way we've been handling the supply of water. And I can tell you, I mean, our existing small-scale storage, interestingly enough, was designed and built for consumptive users. And we've actually modified the way we utilize that storage so that we can help mitigate the impacts of these rising temperatures. We
Okay,
can,
and quickly, what about large-scale storage? Some of the biggest hurdles, and specifically as an example, the Wolf Creek Reservoir, which is in Colorado's
Sure.
3rd District.
I think that touched on this a little bit, the regulations under NEPA for a small project like Wolf Creek or others that we're proponents of in western Colorado, our local communities find the burdensome regulations of NEPA that are oftentimes duplicative and extremely long. And we can take 10 years to go through that process for a small district. Really difficult for us to quickly adapt to this changing climate. So if we can modify those processes to allow us to actually develop these storage buckets faster, it would help us tremendously.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. And this political science denier yields.
Thank you. Chair recognizes Mr. Duarte for 5 minutes.
Hello, and hey, William. Good to see you. Man from my district.
Good to see you.
I know you're a local leader in many things, water and agriculture down there in the San